So on September 10th, 2025, which was just 2 days before the recording of this video, a man by the name of Charlie Kirk was assassinated at a university campus, Utah Valley University to be specific, in front of not just thousands of people or students on campus, but in front of his own family. And, I don't believe that God favors one life over another, but the human part of me feels a little different about that. Charlie Kirk is, who some are saying a man that was too good for this oftentimes evil and wicked world we find ourselves in. And I get that. And, I didn't have the opportunity to meet Charlie in person. I had acquaintances who were close to him. I mean, he was the type of guy who just connected with everybody in the most literal sense. He didn't care if your belief systems were in direct opposition. He wanted to connect with you. Charlie was a special guy. And the day he died, scratch that, the day he was murdered in cold blood in front of his own children and his own wife, I felt the sort of grief that I feel you only experience when you lose a family member or, a close friend who essentially is family to you, right? It's not necessarily just blood that relates us, but it was deep. My lady had to come over and just hold me in her arms. And I'm not the type of guy to just, let it all out in that sort of way. But this one cut deep. And before I even get into whatever we're about to get into today, I've set up a sort of framework, but I don't necessarily know. I'm allowing God to lead the conversation. But before we get into it, I just feel the need to remind all of us, including myself, that Charlie's wife and children, his mother, his family, are going to need our prayer even more so today than yesterday, and tomorrow than today. When you lose somebody this close to you, the sort of pain that most of us can't even fathom in the way that it happened, but we know what it is to lose somebody that we love. The grieving process it's shifty, it's unpredictable, Some days are easier than others, but it could be months, years later, and it just hits you. And so I urge us to continue to pray for this family of this beautiful human being who essentially came to this earth in order to do exactly what he did while he was here, which is to wake people up. I believe that's all at his core, that is all Charlie cared about, was waking people up. And, I feel that we're going to be discussing this for as long as we need to and unpacking all of it. And, as much as we need justice, and we will have justice for Charlie's assassination in bringing the individual to justice who did this, what matters most is to understand why this happened and to do everything in our God-given power to make sure that it cannot happen again. Now, it's probably no secret that we are currently in a all-out war. Now, the reason why maybe for some of us that hasn't had the same level of urgency that it is maybe had when there were physical attacks on the ground, what irony per se is to say that the day before September the 11th is the assassination of a man who, it's the only way I can really quantify it is like, it felt like losing a president. It felt like losing, an MLK or something of that nature. But for us to completely understand how we got here, we need to acknowledge that it is a war. It is a war of ideology. It is a war of ideas. It is a war for the minds and the hearts, more specifically of our young people. It has always been about getting to the kids. The enemy the devil per se, has always been after our youth. And my aunt used to tell me when I was young, she said she saw in me what she saw in, Joshua, who was once Moses' assistant and then stepped into his role as one of the leaders to lead the people of Israel into the promised land. And I didn't understand that for pretty much all my life until I got to this point, to say that there was a job to do for Joshua, and that was to instill his own level of conviction and belief into the young people of Israel after the old generation had died off, those who were eroded, those who had been tainted by these foreign beliefs and these old ways, and more specifically, their own fears and trepidations. And so I'm taking that onus on myself, as I pray that many of us do out here, is to say that we don't cower, we don't step back, we don't shirk, we don't hesitate. We grieve, we mourn, we're angry, there's righteous indignation, but when it's all said and done, we will not surrender, period. As a matter of fact, this was our call to action. And unlike that side, unlike evil, unlike wicked, we don't come out bearing arms. We don't come out fighting with guns and knives and, whatever other tools of war that the other side looks to intimidate us with. But instead, we stand on solid foundation, which is God. And in God, there is truth, unapologetic, fervent truth that is stood upon. We will defend ourselves if necessary. Let's not get that twisted. We will defend ourselves if necessary in the physical. We have that God-given right. But as far as how we venture forward and how we fight, Charlie left behind the blueprint. But unfortunately for them folks on the other side, unfortunately for them folks who have chosen wickedness and evil, some of us ain't so cordial in the way that we deal with things. Some of us just ain't gonna be so nice. That man was a better man than most of us. So today, I'm not going to show the video of the assassination. I will not show that video. I choose not to. If you haven't seen it yet, I'm conflicted as far as should you even see it or not. The only reason you should see it is for it to boil your blood to the point where you're going to do something proactive. Simple as that. If it's just going to disturb you and nothing else, or if it's going to lead you to want to be like them, the other side, then it's probably not worth it. It is one of the most disturbing things I have seen. And I've been on the internet chronically since like 2009. So that being said, I am going to show something that is equally as disturbing, which is the response that came after the assassination of Charlie Kirk. Now, these individuals are obviously out of their right mind, as we would say. They are possessed by these ideologies, these demonic ideologies. I call them exactly what they are. These twisted and warped, ungodly ways of seeing the world. They are taken over, given over to their reprobate minds. They are gone to their humanity. And so what I'm about to show y'all serves a greater purpose, because I want us to get to why we're here. I believe there are real world solutions for these real world problems. And if we don't understand the mentality and we don't become subject to it, again, it pissed me off. When I was watching these, it disturbed my soul, and the human side of me wanted to do some things to these people without a shadow of a doubt. But then I also understand that, wait a minute, we have to stand on something different. We have to move different, plain and simple. We can't be like them. We can't stoop to that level and be given over to the same thing that possesses them. So, as you see the first guy here, he literally looks possessed in the most literal use of the word. So let's go ahead and get into it.
Yo, they got Charlie Kirk, bro. I've never been happier.
Never believe the reason I'm smiling. And it has nothing to do with Charlie Kirk. Nothing to do with Charlie Kirk.
I would say pour one out for Kirky boy, but I don't waste good beer on little
I haven't posted on TikTok in a long time, but I'm gonna now because rest in peace, Bozo!
Charlie Kirk just got put down like a dog in Utah, and I could not be happier. Praise me.
I do not, and I will not, ever feel bad when bad people get what they deserve.
Charlie Kirk got shot? That's awful. That's so sad. Hope he recovers well.
I just heard that someone Charlie Kirk? Dang it. Ah, shucks. Thoughts and prayers.
I didn't let you guys see that for the sake of entertainment. I subjected you guys to that because you need to see it. You need to see it. We needed to see the enemy that we're dealing with face to face. When you don't know the level of darkness that you are up against, it's easy to find yourself in a place where you are lackadaisical, sometimes maybe even apathetic. And it's something I've been saying specifically around the subject of Islam. Those who have essentially buried their head in the sand to understand what, Islam actually is as an ideology. Those who, that old thing that happened back in 2001. But, we're here today. And those who fail to understand or unwilling to look at the reality of these demonic ideologies. Communism is not a joke. Marxism is not something to simply kiki at. And I've been a part of that problem, I guess, as much as anybody else. And it's not that I believe that we should, harden ourselves and not be able to be lighthearted and joke and enjoy. Absolutely. There's a time for that. But right now we're at war. Right now, everything has to be in service to the battle for our children's hearts and minds, period. How did we get here? How did we get to a place where tens, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of our youth are celebrating the demise, the execution, public execution of a righteous man, the best of us? How is that possible? How do we get to that place? That's a question I've asked myself in a million different formats for a very long time. And, I've come up with a few of my own sort of conclusions. I've allowed myself to be subject to others' ideas, perceptions, conclusions. But I feel one of the best places for us to start is at the top, right? Or at least as high as we can go up to the main principalities at play here. So I'm going to go ahead and run this video. Let's hope that none of these videos have any sort of copyright situation. So, there's nothing getting in between y'all and this video here, but let's go ahead and run it.
You know why there aren't uprisings all over the country, and maybe there will be.
There needs to be unrest in the streets for as long as there's unrest in our lives.
You got to be ready to throw a punch. You have to be ready to throw a punch.
Donald Trump, I think you need to go back and punch him in the face.
That I thought he should have punched him in the face.
I feel like punching him.
I'd like to take him behind the gym if I were in high school.
If we were in high school, I'd take him behind the gym and beat the hell out of him.
No, I wish we were in high school. I could take him behind the gym.
I will go and take Trump out tonight.
Take him out now.
Okay. When was the last time an actor assassinated a president?
They're still going to have to go out and put a on Donald Trump.
Show me where it says that protests are supposed to be polite and peaceful.
And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome anymore, anywhere.
I have thought an awful lot about blowing up the White House.
Please, get up in the face of some Congress people.
People will do what they do.
I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released the whirlwind, and you will pay the price.
We're going to go in there, we're going to impeach the
Well, this is just a warning to you Trumpers. Be careful. Walk lightly. And for those of you who are soldiers, make them pay.
If you had to be stuck in an elevator with either President Trump, Mike Pence, or Jeff Sessions, who would it be? Does one of us have to come out alive?
They labeled us as violent. They labeled us as the greatest threat to our democracy. They labeled us as schmazzies, as the little mustache man himself. Yet, there they were, wishing death upon us. For what reason? Because we just so happen to believe in the laws that have been set by our Creator. The very same laws that they look to violate every single day without cease. The worst crime that we committed, and I'm not talking about the genuine far right, white supremacist, neo-schmazi. I'm talking about us actually. Conservatives, Christians, middle of the aisle, centrists, everyday people wanting to live their regular lives in freedom. We have done nothing but give us enough rope to essentially ourselves with. That day is gone. That time has passed. That way of reaching across the aisle, just hopefully if maybe, just maybe they just understood where we stand, you know? Maybe if they just knew our motives and our intentions. Maybe if they knew that we weren't schmatzis. Yeah, it turns out that they never cared. Turns out that they used that as psychological fodder in order to ignite what you saw before that second video there. Maybe they used that in order to incite what we saw on September 10th, 2025 in Utah. Maybe that was the actual reason why they have been doing what they have been doing. Maybe, just maybe, these people's only allegiance is to the evil they serve. Get some specific also in that video. Johnny Depp made an allusion to taking out the life of a president. Madonna, not even getting all the punching in the face nonsense. Madonna threatened to blow up the White House. And these two nutcases are still walking around scot-free. Let me just let that settle in for you. We've got time now. See, before, what we were doing before, we were here, we were active, we were engaged, but something's changed now. It's different now. It's different. This is deeper than just, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're good at what you do and do. No, now this is vocation. It is mission. It is devotion. They thought I was after him before. Oh, man. The devil better take a damn seat. We ain't even got started yet. We have not even gotten started yet. Y'all took out the wrong one. I'm telling y'all that. Y'all took out the wrong one. Y'all took out the man who was trying to keep the peace with y'all asses. Oh, and we said, well, no. We pray for you. We bless you. But we're no longer having debates with y'all. We're no longer having conversations. We are asserting God's law. There is no other choice. You can go somewhere else. They've got plenty of spaces for your communist ass. Okay? Plenty of spaces for your demonic ass. You can go ahead and explore your options out there. Here, in our home, in our land, that day's gone. So back to the matter at hand. We got here because we have so-called leaders, so-called politicians who have pushed this evil ideology from the very top. And that evil ideology has made its way into our children's minds through those institutions that they call centers of higher education, more like deeper indoctrination. They have taken our children's minds and they have warped them against all that is good. Those who are responsible for caring for our children have warped their minds. And so now, and this is a message to the parents who I will be addressing often here on out. You have a responsibility over your children, not just physical needs. No. Mental and emotional, which means not just what you say to them. How are you living? If you're not living right with yourself, you need to get right. No. I'm saying it as it is. I love you. I'm so thankful you're here. Now get your stuff together so your kids have the greatest example. Otherwise, they will follow whatever is going to seep into them once they make their way out into the world, out onto those campuses. You don't think this was an attack on our children to have them fearful of telling the truth and standing up for the truth? That's what happens to you right there, right in front of them. They're going to need a boldness. They're going to need a boldness that is covered by character. You know, they say that your talent can take you places, but your character will keep you in places that your talent cannot. How many men with all the talents, the gifts in the world, but yet they were not able to refine their character? These are people who are placed in high positions that could have made the greater difference in our children's lives, yet they chose to align themselves with evil, period. They were put in a place of responsibility over their brother and sister, and they sold them out for a bag of silver. That's who we can point to at the top. And of course, we have their own arms or tentacles of sort. The media that has pushed over the last 10 years straight. MAGA is the schmatzy. MAGA is a movement of mostly evangelical folks, secular folks who just want to do the right thing, those who left the left and just wanted common sense, that movement was the one that was marked as the schmazzies. While they got to blow up Teslas, while they got to burn down cities, while they got to take innocent people's lives. Yes, I'm talking about the CEO of United Health. When we idly stood by, or some even joined the mob of an innocent man whose life was taken. Oh, this is justice. That's what they called it. They called it justice. You know what they're calling it today? Justice. And because you and I didn't stand up for what was right and be louder than their voice, guess what? They made it okay. They made it okay. No, we're taking responsibility where we have responsibility, because we do. We have power. We have power that has been bestowed upon us. And if we do not act, it is as bad as any sin committed. I believe that. You would have missed the mark for real in the truest essence of that word. So, we have the media that has been perpetuating the ideology, as I call it, the mass media propaganda machine. It is a machine. It works tirelessly, night and day, to infiltrate the hearts and the minds of all those who essentially make themselves open to it. And so I came across a video that I felt was probably the most powerful depiction, and it comes from, I believe it's 1984. I believe that this is the movie version. I have not seen a movie version of this, so it is my assumption. But I came across it on X and I thought to myself, this is it. So just in case of copyrights, I am just going to essentially show snippets of the scenes, but you'll get it relatively fast. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Even as we grasp victory, there is a cancer, an evil tumor, growing, spreading in our...
These are kiddos right here, scrolling through TikTok, scrolling through Blue Sky, whatever other nonsense out there. That's them right there, scrolling through Reddit.
Shout out his name.
I look familiar right there? That's the white liberal woman right there. Look at her. Karen in all of her wrath.
Look at this.
That right there on the screen, that's President DJT right there. They've told him that he is the literal devil. Over and over. And as the old saying goes, tell a lie for long enough and soon it will become the truth. Look at this. Look at that. DJT pops up on the screen. Look at that. They're losing their ever-living minds. Charlie Kirk trying to have a conversation, telling the damn truth. That's them right there. Losing their ever-living minds. And look at these, the professors, the politicians, the corporations that are in bed with the politicians. Look at this. Yes, they're soaking it up. Look at this man with a little bit of guilt, but he's a part of it anyway. And their children. Look at that. Man, I need to watch this. I need to watch the movie. Look, he's looking around like, man, I can't. Whew. Well, it's probably going to be best for me to just join. And then there he goes. It's possible to be wrong even when everybody else around you is saying the same thing. It's not just possible, it's oftentimes likely. In this world that we live here, it is likely that if everybody is saying the same thing, questionable. If everybody is on the exact same, everybody It's the mainstream narrative that is being pushed by the mainstream machine. It is highly unlikely. So that right there was, I guess, my best depiction of the second layer, which is from the politicians and the leaders to media and then your educational institutions. It's a multi-tier or multifaceted, multi-tier system. Your educators, and maybe I'll make a video just on this alone, because again, there's going to be so much to unpack, so much to unpack on this. But let's say, okay, yeah. Let's say that 98 to 99.9% of your college professors believe in one ideology and less than 1% believe in the other. What do you think that is going to do to the minds of those that they are responsible for? Do you think there's going to be any level of nuance, any sort of true disagreement, argument, persuasion? Or do you think it's going to be the 99.999% looking to turn the minds of those who do not fall in line, using coercion, fear tactics, manipulation, faux friendship, your own damn grades against you? You believe the wrong thing, you get a worse grade. These are the people supposed to be responsible for your education, your ability to process information, to understand, to learn, to know, to develop a desire for learning. And yet here they are in the year of our Lord 2025. And most of these so-called educational institutions work as indoctrination camps. And I'm not going to say it didn't begin with some level of indoctrination. Sure, the system always had elements, but what were we indoctrinating our children into? It's like there was a time in Hollywood's history when they were commissioned to push propaganda that was pro-American, right? To push a America first agenda in Hollywood, so that the temperament of the people was patriotic and people wanted to be active and do things and build the society. Whereas now there is an anti-American, anti-Western, and dare I say full out anti-God propaganda that is being pushed into our kids' minds. And the old folks too, them old ass hippies, them damn boomers. Again, the reason I'm not targeting them necessarily is because in most cases, they're so far gone and they're few and far between. And sometimes they fall into these comments and, thankfully I see you every now and then. But there are some folks out there 50, 60, 70 years old and they wake up. And I believe that is possible for anybody. It's never too late. But those who are being targeted, pinpointed, those who are the focal point of this are the youngins. Because they're going to carry forward what the culture becomes. And that's the threat. If you have this guy who is waking up all these young people who we have put every resource to brainwash, Qatar has paid every top dollar for this. Russia, top dollar for this. China, top dollar for this. And all of a sudden, who? Who are you? The devil looking at him like, who is you? And what are you doing to my subjects? The focus is on the youngins. The focus is on the kids. It's through your TikToks and, Instagram's making a little bit of a comeback. It's through your exes. Now they can't handle X, so they're on Blue Sky. That's the second tier, as I would call it, which falls into media influence. It falls into, educational institutions, these authority sort of institutions. And then we have the third tier. And ironically enough, Third tier doesn't mean it's the worst tier or the least effective. It's actually the most important tier. And that tier is the parents. And so I wanted to bring up this video here. And this is a video you guys are going to see come up at another point as well. But I want to bring up this video here.
If you seriously believe the 13% of the population and 50% of the crime, you need to get fact-checked, and I'm about to do it to you. In 2016, white people committed 70% of the convicted crime, and black people only committed 27%. Then in 2017, white people committed 68% of the reported crime, and black people only committed 26% of it. And in 2024, white people committed 53% of the reported crime, while black people only committed 25%. So this narrative on 13% of the population, 50% of the crime is wrong.
Uh-oh, it looks like the white liberals sent Miniature Dan over here to get all the smoke. Well, his math ain't mathin', so let's get it. And you know, since you white liberals like to say that MAGA people have no degrees, I have a master's in accounting and mathematics, so this ought to work for you. Little Miniature Dan, come to the front. So black people are only 13% of the population. Crime is not spread evenly across the board because if it was, black people will only commit 13%. By your stats, Miniature Dan, 25% of the crime was committed by 13% of the population. That means it's double the population. 25 divided by 13 equals 1.92. You know.
As I said, we're going to get into that video separately on a different video. So shout out to sis. She's already cooking Miniature Dan. But the reason I brought that up is because of Miniature Dan, actually. Here we have a child spewing off this liberal Marxist garbage, lies that have been pervasive in the liberal media, pervasive from the left as far as politics goes. And you find this now in the houses of these people. My speculation is that Miniature Dan was taught this by his mother. That's my speculation. That his mother is a white liberal woman with these sorts of ideas that she is now perpetuating to her kids. Now, this is one of the more tame examples, right? The most sinister, sadistic evil is when they start to transition their children as opposed to treating them for possible mental illness. That's the darkest and most sinister. The darkest and most sinister is, infantilize, or not infantilization. God, what's the word? Infanticide. Is that infanticide? Is that the word? That's the word, I think. Taking their own young's lives, that's the most extreme version of this. But the corruption and the destruction of these children's minds happens in tier 3, which is in the household. It's actually, if you want to look at it, you can see it as circles, right? You have the political circle on the outside, then, the media, and then that second level of influence. And then you have the most important, which is the core, the nucleus of this thing, which is the household. Parents, your influence matters. Yes, you can't control everything your child is going to do or say, but you dictate the potential direction. You have the most authority over that process as our kids are growing up. A neglectful, a dismissive, and emotionally avoidant parent will lead to this as much as a parent who is active but is corrupted in their own ideology and their own way of life. You have the opportunity to stop this before they become a maniac psychopath on top of a roof, pointing a military-grade weapon at the throat of an innocent man. We will spend the rest of our lives unpacking, telling the damn truth, and ironically, not taking our foot off of that damn serpent's neck. You understand me? Not even a little bit. So yeah, y'all woke up 2.0 and 3.0 and 4.0 right now. That's where we're going with this. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Now, if you'd like to stay around, make sure to click that little subscribe button down there, or you can show some love by going to the description below and clicking on the button titled Buy Me a Coffee. Leave a little something there, or click on the Cash App. Leave a little something here. Till the next time, peace.
Aquarius. Where? I've been up for hours, I've been up for days, you. Staring at the ceiling, I've been counting strays, you. I've been in my feelings, I've been out of mind. I've been getting visions of the other kind. Yeah, I've been up for weeks. I'm in the count of blessings over count of sheep. I can never be the type to limit when it comes to me. I used to be the pleaser for the people.